What's going on, everybody? This is No Bad Days. I'm Ryan. Today we're talking about one of my favorite things to do, and that's snowboarding. We're going to talk about the equipment that I'm riding this season, how to set it all up, and how to make sure you have the best day out on the hill possible. I'm also going to talk a little bit about my experience with snowboarding and how it kind of went from a love-hate back to love relationship over the past 20 plus years of working in the industry. So we'll jump right into it. So we'll start right off with the board I'm going to be riding this season. This year I chose to ride the Slash Brainstorm, and what this board is a freestyle all mountain board in a 159 wide. I'm a big guy, so the wider board's going to give me a little bit more stability, reduce toe drag with my big size 12 feet on it. A 59 for me is actually perfect for parking stuff like that in Ontario. If I were out west, I'd ride a much bigger board. This has cam rock, which means that it's cambered in between your feet and then rocks up outside of your bindings. Allows it for a little bit more float, a little bit more playful in the park, and then pop in between your bindings. Runs carbon and Kevlar and basalt stringers to give you a lot more snap and rebound when you're popping off jumps and or landing and big powerful turns and stuff like that. So this is a sweet board for me. It's been a long time since I've actually been able to pick my own boards, as I worked for companies previously, so I was riding their product. So it's really fun to be able to ride a snowboard owner-owned brand. So that's the board I'm riding. The bindings that I'm riding are the Union Atlas, and I like those. Again, you know, binding specific company, just super comfortable. I've been riding them for a really long time and never had anything but luck with them. The boot I'm riding, 32 lashed, lightweight, park freestyle boot, heat moldable intuition liner, basic lacing system, super comfortable, lightweight, good flex pattern for the type of riding I do as well. So the way I set up my board, I ride regular, so that means my left foot forward. I ride a little bit of a duck stance, so I ride a 15-degree front, 13-degree back, and I pretty much ride just outside the suggested width on this because, again, I'm a little bit taller than what most people would be riding this board. So I already know where I'm going to be setting up my bindings. Setting up the bindings, I've done this, well, I don't even know how many times, but way too many. So it's pretty basic. The inserts are already pre-drilled on a snowboard. All your bindings should come with the mounting hardware. It's pretty cool. As I just opened this, Union actually comes with a little tape measure for you. So when you want to measure your width of your setup, it can tell you. So you know exactly how wide to set up your bindings. So if you already have your measurements, then you'll know where you want it. Free sticker too. Who doesn't love stickers? So mounting hardware, again, comes with the bindings. Discs will come with the binding. Mounting hardware should always have like a Loctite, a loose Loctite. So what that means is that it will lock in, but it's not going to bind into it. So when setting up a board, first and foremost, a binding like this is going to actually have a cover on the top. So I have to remove that, which is just a simple screwdriver. Not every binding is going to have a pad like this, but these do. So we just pop that off, slide that, set it out of the way. Then we're going to come to the binding here, and you'll see you're going to have little degree markers all along this point here, and that's going to tell you the angle of your foot. That way you're not putting your foot on an angle like this when you want it like this. So I run the discs this direction so I can slide them back and forth, as I've already got my heel cup set up. And I'm just going to set it at 13, plop this down where I need it, and get to screwing. So while I do this, I'll talk a little bit about my history with snowboarding. So I started snowboarding in 1992. I rented my first board from a shop in Kelowna called Island Snow, and that just kind of got my love for the sport started. I moved back to Ontario in 1993, I believe. And when I got back, actually a lot of places didn't allow snowboarding. So it was pretty crazy. So the stuff I love to do, I couldn't actually technically do here. Luckily, I had met some friends that I knew from previous when I lived in Ontario, but also some new friends. So some of my best buddies today, like Swiss Ian, J-Biz, Goss, Rog, all those dudes, they were into snowboarding and skateboarding. So it was perfect for me. So I had people to go out with. We just go and kind of jib, hit rails, little stuff in the park, build little jumps, stuff like that. So we were able to do it. Then as time went on, they'd started to allow it at all the resorts in Ontario, so it worked out really well, and we kind of had a head start on it. With that, I also started to meet some of the better guys who had been doing it for a longer time, and who are some of my best buds today. And I always looked up to these guys, whether it was skateboarding or snowboarding. So guys like my buddy D Smiley, who's one of my best buddies to this day. And I built these relationships with these people solely based on the fact that we had something in common, that we both loved skateboarding and snowboarding. And like they kind of took me under their wing, made me feel right at home, comfortable, and it was just such a fun experience growing up in that environment. We'd be out late at night riding stuff, running around, getting chased by security and cops, and just, it was such a fun experience looking back at it today. So that's kind of how I got started into it. So that's like early mid-90s. There was a shop called Funhouse where I ended up buying all my stuff from. And they always had the most cool stuff. And I remember my first pro board that I bought was a Ride RJ. And that was such a wicked board. And I'll post a picture of here with me with it. And me and Jay, actually. He had the same board. So that was my first pro board. In 1997... I started working in the snowboard and skateboard industry. So I got my first job at Surf Paradise in Kitchener, and I started working there right out of basically my first year of college, and just fell in love with the industry, everything about it, the lifestyle, being able to work with the sports that I loved. And it was just an awesome experience to get into the industry there. And I got to know a lot of the sales reps as well, which meant deals on product or free boards to ride, stuff like that, which was really awesome because that was right up my alley. Especially, it was nice to be able to claim that I got free stuff for some whatever reason. Made me feel good about myself. In 1999, I made the move back out west to a resort called Castle Mountain, which is right on the BC-Alberta border, really close to Fernie actually. And moved out there to ride for the season. That was awesome. Castle Mountain's really well known for its basically inbounds, out of bounds riding. So you have lots of really easy access, hikeable terrain that for kind of backcountry style riding. Great places to build jumps and ride powder. They get Chinook winds, so it's really awesome terrain. Had a blast out there riding with my homie Matt Davis, and we just had a blast. And we used to get made fun of. The owner of the shop at the resort was a Swiss guy, and I remember when we got there, he was like, "Ryan and Matt, you have no flair, no Western flair." And he was true. We dressed like street dudes, you know, camo, special blend, brands like that. And we were all about that kind of stuff, like the freestyle stuff coming from Ontario versus this big backcountry stuff. I really started to understand at that point the difference between fashion and function. My style, not only of riding, as well as like the things I wore and rode, changed as well, because I understood like how easily it was to break boards, go through boards, how important it was to have the right product for wind and water protection, things like that. So in 2000, after spending the season out there, I decided to come back home for the summer, as the town we lived in was only 1,400 people. So not a whole lot of action in the summer. But decided to come back in 2000, and an opportunity came up, and a brand reached out to me and said, you know, would you mind representing our clothing brand and kind of contacting some retailers and stuff like that while you're back? They were kind of looking for a sales rep at that time, and I said, sure, I can help out while I do this. That moment basically was the last time I returned to BC to live and or ride, well, to live, and started my real kind of independent career in the snowboard and skateboard industry. So I went out and started my own sales agency. It was called Volume Sales. And I represented at that time in 2000, 2001, UN Riders Co., so United Riders, who did streetwear and full outerwear, Invasion Snowboards, and that's kind of got me started. As time went on, I started to pick up more brands, represent more brands, so I represented Capix helmets, action footwear, power footwear, and then it evolved a little bit more in mid-2000. Well, still 2001. Well, during this time I should mention as well, 2001 I also started managing a shop called Board Zone, who was a massive online retailer and brick and mortar stores of skateboard and snowboard goods. So I started managing that in 2001 while I had my sales agency. That went on for a while. I continued on with Board Zone while I changed over with brands that I represented. So I started working with Air Blaster Outerwear, which was amazing because they were up and coming, cool, bright colors. That was super fun. And in around 2006, 2007-ish, I started working with Stepchild Snowboards. Again, amazing company, rider owned. At that time, it was Brad and Sean Johnson that owned it. And it was so cool to be involved with that company. They had dudes like Simone Chamberlain riding for them, and Joe Sexton, stuff like that. And it was just like this up-and-coming, awesome freestyle brand, amazing company to be part of. and at that time still managing Board Zone while all this was going on. So that was super fun, and I continued on in that industry. In 2008, I actually ended up purchasing with a partner the Board Zone retail locations. So my partner bought the Toronto location, Thornhill location. I purchased the Waterloo location. So now I own my own store and my own sales agency. I continued on with that, and as time went on with that stuff, I rode less and less. So every time I was basically on the hill, it was for work. So, you know, I thought when I started these companies that because I loved the sport, that I would love working in the industry, and therefore, you know, business and pleasure would be a perfect mix, I thought, and it wasn't. What I quickly realized as time went on is that I started to resent snowboarding. I didn't like being out on the hill. It was, for me, it was strictly about getting bills paid, and you know, plus being an alcoholic and addict. It was like, it was a bad mix. With that said, I did have some amazing times. I got to work with some amazing athletes, different professional snowboarders. I got to hang out with some of the biggest pros in the world, and it was really fun at certain points, but it started to not be fun anymore. And, you know, I watched some of the athletes that I got to ride with on a regular basis who are some of my best friends to this day, like Pitts and Os and stuff like that. And, you know, they were following their dreams, and I was just kind of stuck in this rut. I couldn't get past this feeling that I just didn't want to do anything but drink. Like that's what became my hobby and my passion, was just getting drunk and messed up. So that kind of continued on. I owned the shop. We ended up opening a third location in Toronto downtown. Again, it was hard to be part and be present and all of that stuff. You know, I missed 2 grand openings because I was so messed up, stuff like that. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, I feel guilty about stuff like that, but it was just, it wasn't the right thing for me to be doing at that point in my life. Anyways, so I was riding less and less. My ability to ride was going down further and further as I wasn't progressing over that. I don't think I learned a new trick from 2010 on, and it was difficult. And come 2015, when I closed, so I closed my sales agency, wasn't repping any brands anymore, closed my store. The Thornhill store's still open. I'm a massive fan of the shop. It's called Sanction. That's where I get all my product from. Love those guys. The staff's all amazing there. I closed my location. Our Thornhill store is still open. Toronto store we had to close because the building was being knocked down. But I'm completely not involved with it anymore now. So closed the store, and I was just over snowboarding. I was over everything in life. I remember the day I closed my store, somebody reached out to me and they said, you know, do you need to go to the hospital? Because it was like at the point where I was like that dark of a place, and it wasn't, we were talking mental health hospital. I didn't need to go, thank goodness. But, you know, there was still another year left of that hard lifestyle where all that I cared about was getting messed up. 2016, as I've told many times, I got sober and found recovery, and I kind of decided that I didn't still really care about skateboarding or snowboarding. I still carried that resentment. I had felt like a lot of people in the industry who had been like at my wedding and stuff like that when I was married, like had deserted me and left me. What I didn't realize is that I had left them. It wasn't them leaving me. And I had to realize too that some of these were just strictly business relationships. We weren't actually like close friends. The thing we shared in common is that we worked together. And that took me a long time to realize that. So I didn't step on a board from 2015 until last season. So 2019 was my first day getting back on a board. I caught myself watching snowboard videos, and I was like, oh, it's back. You know, this passion is back. My love for snowboarding, something that was so important to me for so much of my life. The people that I'm best friends with in my life today are the people that I met through and because of skateboarding and snowboarding. And it started to come back, and it started to feel right again, and I knew that I had to get back out on the hill. So I went out, picked up a board. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I got to pick out a board for the first time in, well, 10 years. That wasn't a board that I had to work for the company. So I got to pick out my board, bindings, and I felt like a kid again, and I was just like getting all this new gear, and it was so exciting and fun. And I remember that first chairlift ride up the hill, and I was anxious, like really anxious. I hadn't ridden sober in over 10 years. I was anxious because I was on the chairlift. There was a lot of emotion and feeling going through me. And the moment my board touched down, I was just like, I'm back, baby, I'm back. And it just felt so good. It felt right. It was exactly where I was supposed to be. And tricks just kind of started coming back. And yeah, I definitely had missed a beat. I'd been down for a while, but it just felt so good to be back on a board, you know, popping little tricks. And you know, there was a couple of small boxes set up, so I was able to slide a couple boxes and rails, and it just felt so good to be back. And I was just like, this is where I gotta be. And so long story short, I ended up putting in a bunch of days last year, had an amazing time, and booked some stuff for this season. And obviously with what's happened this year, I haven't been able to travel or do anything like that, and which has delayed me setting up my board. Where I am, we're currently in a lockdown. None of the resorts are open, so I haven't had the ability to ride. We haven't had the greatest snow year yet either to be able to like kind of do urban stuff. But I figured no better day than today to set this up, get it ready, so when it does snow again, I can get out and actually put this thing to use. So yeah, so that's kind of my little journey through snowboarding. So like I said, you know, I fell in love with snowboarding and the people involved with it. I built this massive resentment against it, and what I realized is that the whole time it wasn't snowboarding, it was me. And I think ultimately I was just so disappointed in myself that I wasn't actually able to get out there and enjoy it and make the most of it and keep up with everybody anymore. And you know, I just felt bad about myself, and it was a big ego check. But now I'm out there and I'm like, I don't care if I'm the best or the worst. I have lots of fun. You know, it's just, it feels good to be back on the hill. So that's kind of where I'm at today. Who knows what will happen next. I work in the bike industry currently. I work at a shop and get to play with bikes, in which I love cycling, but it's, you know, it's not too close to home in the sense where I'm like playing with snowboards all day and you know, mixing it too close, business with pleasure. So yeah, so it's been awesome in that sense. And while we talked there, this board is now set up. And I'm technically, this board's ready to shred. It's already pre-waxed. I've detuned it. What that means is I actually take a file to this corner here, as well as here, and the same on the nose. I just kind of round it with a file that takes the kind of catchiness away from it. So especially when you're coming in and out of turns, it's not going to hook, or when you're landing a little bit off center, it won't grab there. I don't ride a super sharp board anyways, because I do hit rails and stuff like that. Straps, I don't know if they're set up because I haven't set up this board yet. Here's my boot, 32 lash, like I said. Throw this in here. Strap goes a little over the toe. That's gonna need a little adjustment. Got my ankle strap. That's gonna need a little adjustment. So what's awesome about these bindings, pretty much all tool-free adjustment. So I just pop open this little portion here, spin this. It's basically a little built-in screwdriver. And one thing you have to remember too when you're setting up stuff like this, you don't want to give it too much slack because it's going to compress as you ride, and then you'll end up with too long of straps. So a simple adjustment, one notch up, always doing little micro adjustments. And this guy should be good to go there. And sweet, that's done. See that? Sweet. Ready to rock. So that's how we're looking. I got my POW sticker on there, protect our winters. So that's my board. I don't ride a stomp pad. I used to put a ton of stickers on my boards with the brands that I worked for. I don't really do that anymore. I've got some rules against what stickers get to go on my product, whether it's cars or snowboards. The one sticker that I do have to put on here, which I don't have around me, is a sanctioned sticker. Like I said, the homies have always supported me through thick and thin. Love those dudes. And I got my POW sticker because you gotta support them. So that's the board boot binding setup. So what we'll do is we will then jump into outerwear. So first and foremost, first layer, always wearing a synthetic, whether it's a fleece or polyester. I wear mid-weight stuff, and top and bottom, gotta stay warm out there. For spring riding, rail sessions, I always have what's called a coach's jacket. This one here is from Sanction, it's the in-house branded stuff. Just a nice chill, clean jacket, lightweight, gonna keep the moisture off, not gonna prevent me from being able to, you know, like torque around, it keeps me loose. So I always have a couple of these in the stockpile. And then when it comes to actual outerwear, I wear all Volcom outerwear. So this is a Volcom Gore-Tex jacket, extra large, so it's a little bit oversized in the sense that it's a little bit looser in the body for me. This is going to be for you know, more wet days or super cold days. Awesome wind and water protection with Gore-Tex. Tons of storage pockets, little goggle straps, stuff like that. So I've got the black Gore-Tex. Then I've got the, to go with that kind of setup, I've got the Volcom 15 mil waterproofing, 15 mil breathability camo bib pant. Bibs are an awesome pant for pow riding. Well, actually any riding. Just keeps you super dry and warm. Pants don't slip down. You don't get that sagability like the kind of street look. But awesome fit. Gotta love camo. In the generation I grew up with, when you're watching Mac Dog production videos, you know you're gonna love camo. And you're gonna have something camo somewhere in your kit. So bib pant camo. Next up, I've got basically a 15,000 mil waterproofing, 15,000 breathability. A little bit more insulation. This is like kind of a daily jacket from Volcom. Bib skirt in it. So waist gaiter, sorry. All the little gadgets. And just a little bit of color into my kit. And then last but not least, still got the tags on it. 15,000 mil, 15,000 breathability. It's like a dark burgundy, a little bit slimmer fit pant. Great for urban stuff. Not bib, so just wear a belt with these. These are super cool. And that's my pants. So I have two kits. This is what I would travel with. I carry a coach's jacket, regardless if it's that one or not. A little bit of quilted stuff, like the 15,000 mil stuff, and then Gore-Tex stuff for rougher conditions. So always ready for all conditions when you're on a trip. When it comes to accessories, always helmet. And I also rock, well, you've got your toque, obviously. Throw that on. Keep it steezy. Get my little chapeau. Goggles. I always carry a couple sets of goggles, and I'll keep different lenses in them. So these, for instance, is I'll have a lens like this, which is almost see-through, but it is mirrored. So what that's going to do is take away glare, but it's also going to give me depth and pick up any flat or any terrain in flat-like conditions. So this rose or yellow tint is amazing for flat-like conditions like gray days, stuff like that. It'll show you all the contours in the hill, give you a little bit more depth to everything. Then you have your throwdown lenses, you got your protect or winter's cover, and that's like your full mirror. These are your bright sunny days. When you look through these are a rose. So again, good for depth, but these are for your brighter days. I wouldn't wear these at night. I actually rarely wear that type of goggle. And then I've got another set here, non-mirrored, dark lens, and then you've got your full yellow. Oh, sorry, another mirror. I do have a yellow somewhere as well, and I have a clear. So I have a ton of different lenses, have to be equipped for every situation. The last thing you want to do is get to the hill and not have your stuff. Not so much for a daily trip, but like for a multi-day trip. You need to have all this stuff kind of packed. It's awesome to have accessories like this to store it all that's padded and protected. Having good quality bags. All that stuff that I used to think, and it goes back to that functionality over fashion type thing, that I was like, oh, I don't need all that stuff. I really do, and it allows me to pack better. It allows when I get there, my stuff to actually be still intact and work properly. Always, well, nowadays you have to have a face mask, so this is just a neck gaiter. I have a bunch of different ones of these. And then I've got mitts and gloves. So important to me, mitts keep your hands warmer because your fingers are together. Gloves, a little bit easier to manipulate things. So I always have a mitt and a glove in my lineup. So that's pretty much all my equipment for this season. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that I left out. I always carry a file with me. I always have, on a trip, I always have a wax kit so I can do my own tuning. Aside from that, I always have a multi-tool as well. So if I do have any micro adjustments that need to be made, I've got that on hand. So that's my kit for this year. That's my experience with snowboarding over the past, well, coming up on 30 years. And as I mentioned, I'm really excited to get back out on the hill. I didn't know how much I really needed it, and I guess ultimately it's kind of like that saying, you don't know what you have till it's gone. And I didn't realize what I'd been missing out on for the past 10 years, and I don't wish those 10 years back, but I am really embracing the future and making the most of all these opportunities. I look forward to making some trips out west and, you know, just putting more days on the hill. I love snowboarding. I'm so grateful for everything that snowboarding's given me in this life, the people that I've met through it, And you know, it's part of me. It really is. And I'm looking forward to see what happens next. And hopefully there's something you could have taken away from this. If you ever have any questions about equipment, I do have a little bit of experience with it. I did quickly just kind of blast over everything here because I didn't want to kill people with technical stuff. It's very easy to just Google all these stuff if you want to find out what they're made out of, things like that. But if you ever have any questions, like stuff you're looking to get into, I'm more than happy to help. Lots of great resources. Like I said, there's amazing shops out there. The one that I do the most work with is going to be Sanctioned because those are the homies, but there's a ton of other amazing shops out there. And I like to support the rider-owned and operated brands. Those are the ones that are going to keep the industry going, whether or not it's popular or not. So first and foremost, get out there, have some fun. If you've ever considered snowboarding, it's worth it. Try it. It's not that hard. If I can do it, anybody can. Yeah, thanks so much for everybody for listening today. I'm Ryan. This is No Bad Days. I hope everybody has a great day. Take care.